Billed as the most versatile car in the world, it can do things other cars can't, like letting in the rain.
The share scam, with less than zero return.
And the Star Trek convention that was star-free. Watchdog, your money, your show. Hello, welcome to Watchdog. Live from the office, where we've been looking at some starkly contrasting views of the Citroën Pluriel.
It looks the business in the ad, and the Mirrors man was also impressed.
To refer to the Citroën Pluriel as a car is an insult to one of the most adventurous pieces of affordable modern automotive architecture I've seen.
Some of you have had your Pluriel enthusiasm plurally dampened, and that's because, as you've driven in the rain with the roof up, you've been dampened. Kate hears about the leaks from more than one source.
The Citroën Pluriel launched 8 months ago and, according to its manufacturer, stunningly versatile. It's 5 cars in one: a hatchback, soft top, pickup, panoramic saloon and a spider.
Perfect in the spring, summer, autumn or winter. Perfect at any time of year, as long as it never rains.
Claire Wildbore bought her car in July last year.
I bought the Citroën Pluriel because it offered me everything I was looking for in a car. I wanted a convertible, but I also needed big boot space because I'm in partnership in a paint-your-own pottery shop, so I need to be able to transport clay and paint and brushes and palettes. I first noticed it was leaking a couple of weeks after I had the vehicle, and I was driving and I noticed water dripping onto me, and I couldn't figure out where the water was coming from. I discovered that where the roof arches connect into the car, just above the window, the seal wasn't working properly, so the water was dripping in through the seal.
Claire took her car back to the Citroën garage. They said there was a fault with the roof and Citroën was working on it.
The car's now been into Citroën 5 times. It's still leaking through the passenger and driver's door. I always keep a towel on my passenger seat to save it from dripping on me. When I'm going around a corner, I'll hold the towel up at the window so that it drips onto the towel instead.
Fed up with repair after repair, Claire has asked Citroën for a refund, but she's hit a dead end. They've refused. Instead, they've offered to try and repair her car again, for a 6th time.
New models will have faults, and it's only through people driving them that these faults may appear. So that was my patience with giving them 5 opportunities and 6 or 7 months to fix the vehicle. They've tried, they've failed. I don't want these problems anymore, I just want my money back.
Tanya Wells bought her Pluriel in June last year. She was very happy with it, until it rained.
I went to work, and when I came out, I pulled up at some traffic lights and I noticed the dripping water from the roof seal on the passenger side. And I thought, oh, this can't be right. So I've checked above my head, and it was leaking water from the roof seals on my side as well.
Tanya went back to her Citroën dealer, who said they needed to replace the seals on her car. 4 months later.
When I collected it, they said yes, they had put them on, tested them, everything was fine. I took it away, and yet again the water poured through the seals and down the side of the windows.
So back it went to the dealership. This time they suggested using silicone on the seal, but that would mean every time Tanya used the car as a convertible, she'd have to break the seal, effectively putting her back where she started. So instead, they used this. Vaseline.
And I said, but I thought Vaseline was for babies' bottoms, not for sealing car roofs up. I said, at the end of the day, that's not a permanent fix, that is just a bodge job.
Independent vehicle engineer Steve Lee had a look.
As you can see here, this overlapping joint is very small, only probably not even 10 millimetres, and the water's running down the side of this roof arch, gets into the seal, down here, trickles round the inside, and when the door's shut, comes down the inside of the glass and into the door pocket and soaks all your maps and bits and pieces. And also in modern cars with sophisticated electronics, you don't have a mix of water and electronics because it will cause problems later on in a car's life.
It was suggested to the owner of this car that she could fix the problem by putting Vaseline in the gap.
It's laughable. To ask someone to put Vaseline in there is just ridiculous.
So what'd you do? How'd you fix it?
I'm sure, given a bit more thought, this joint could be improved and it would work every time.
So, Claire's been told her car's fine and the dealer's done his best. Tanya's had her car sealed with Vaseline. What about Stephen Shripka? He first noticed a leak around October.
One morning we just opened the car up and there was water dripping from the top of the car onto the seats, which started to stain the seats.
Like Claire, Stephen's car went back to Citroën again, and again, and again.
Once we got it back, we tested the car thoroughly and we still have the same faults that it went in with i.e. the roof leaking.
Stephen heard there'd been a recall, so asked Citroën why he hadn't been notified. They said they were fixing cars whilst they were being serviced to minimise inconvenience. And anyway, it was simply a product enhancement. It's not the only product enhancement Stephen's car needs.
My partner Rebecca, she was in the car one evening and she actually got locked into the car for an hour and a half.
Not great if you're sitting on damp seats.
Driving the car about with water dripping on you, the locks to the door that don't work properly, getting locked in them, it's terrible.
Citroën dealers couldn't seem to get their story straight with us either.
Do you know if there's been like a recall or anything like that then? I mean, I don't know how serious.
Not a recall, no, because you would have received a letter. There's recalls on your car. We have had quite a few that have developed water leaks on them. We don't actually get that many water leaks.
It is a common fault with the Plurial.
And that's what's made people so angry. A leaking car is bad enough, but no real fix, and telling drivers different stories is even worse. Different dealers, different stories. The Citroën Plurial, the convertible car, with convertible excuses.
Well, Citroën admits that a small proportion of Plurial owners have experienced water leaks and they sincerely regret any inconvenience or disappointment for drivers. They say they are confident that together with their new dealer network, they can now resolve the issue, which they insist is not safety related. Now, a helpline for Plurial owners is on the Watchdog website.
Now, in the last few weeks, we've highlighted complaints from more than 500 Persimmon homeowners. On both occasions, the company declined to come in for an interview, but we're glad to say they're here tonight to answer their critics. Here's a reminder of the less than domestic bliss you told us about in some Persimmon homes.
Good times for a change. See, the luck I've had can make a good man turn bad. So for once in my life, let me get what I want. Lord knows it would be the first time. Lord knows it would be the first time.
They clearly not only don't look after their customers' interests or care about their customers' interests, they actually don't care about their customers' health, and that is really, really serious.
Well, since then, Persimmon have met those residents with the blue water corrosion problem and have offered them two alternatives. Either Persimmon will use specialists to industrially flush out the entire plumbing system in homes affected, or they'll replace the whole lot with new pipes, sinks and taps. The residents are now considering this offer.
David Bryant, Director of Persimmon Homes, is with us. 4 years to put this right.
It has taken an awful long time. The problem has arisen, as you may be aware from other reports, that it initially started with staining in the sanitary ware, and whilst we replaced some sanitary ware to start with, the problems grew. We then, on the back of that, commissioned some experts to have a look at this problem. The situation has been that residents, experts and our own experts have looked at water sampling. We've had the Water Research Council take 90 samples in those properties, and they've confirmed that the water is safe. However, as matters have progressed, and your programme showing the blue liquid in the bottom of the cylinder, we have since then met with the residents. This was Friday of last week, and we have put a proposal to them that we, with immediate effect, arranged to have all of their plumbing taken out.
With immediate effect now, David, but it has taken 4 years since the first person complained. Let me just put this to you. Would you let your kids bathe in this? I mean, I suggest that your wife wouldn't put up with this coming out of the tap for 4 minutes, let alone 4 years. Am I right?
You're absolutely right. I am a parent, I have 2 children, and I would not like to expose them to that. But it is a question of that was only really apparent in the cylinder that you cut open the last time round. Before that, as I say, if you've got the Water Research Council and other experts advising and saying that the sampling of water is correct, added to which the conclusion in terms of what the cause effect is.
Yeah, but a perfectly respectable water consultant took a different view, as you well know. And surely in your position, you chose to believe the former view because it suited your purposes, and people will have the suspicion that you didn't do anything because you didn't want to have to pay to put things right.
No, I don't think that's right at all. We are genuinely concerned about our customers.
You are.
Well, we build 12,500 houses a year. The majority of our customers are well satisfied. We even have people who've come back 4 and 5 times to buy them from us.
Nobody disputes that, but if you put on your website, "We aim to take care of you,"
yes.
I mean, that phrase stood out for me when I had a look. And this whole saga of the mucky blue goo has not been the best advert for that promise, has it, David?
Well, you have to concentrate on the fact that this is a phenomenon. It is a phenomenon within the industry, and none of the experts so far, whether on behalf of the residents or ourselves, have come to the conclusion that a particular item, material, or water sample
We've had
is
500 complaints about you.
You're now talking about general complaints. I'm sorry for that, and I genuinely mean that. We have put in place to try and rectify that, a situation where we have a new procedure where we complete the properties, they're signed off, we have our sales advisors accepting that, and then inviting the customers for a home demonstration before they take release of the keys.
David Bryant, let's hope you can live up to that promise. We aim to take care of you in future. Thanks for coming in.
Thanks very much indeed.
Now this is the Watchdog boiler room. There's a team here 6 days a week, not just half an hour on Tuesdays. So it should be no surprise to learn the opposition is equally dedicated. Some scammers out there are at it just as long and hard in their own boiler rooms.
But these boiler rooms are call centres set up to sell shares in companies that don't exist. The salesmen work to a script to convince you they do. Paul Heine has a different script. In his, he gets all steamed up about boiler rooms.
Imagine one day you get a call. The person at the other end makes you a very special offer, the chance to turn a few £1,000s into a whole load more by investing in a once-in-a-lifetime share opportunity. But for you to make some big money, you have to put up some of your own cash first. So, you spend thousands of pounds buying shares. Eventually, your share certificates arrive, and pretty impressive, aren't they? Look, shares in cutting-edge technology. And then you find out that they are worthless. And that's the essence of a boiler room scam, a tale that Tony Ackland from Cornwall is only too familiar with. It all began with a cold call from abroad.
He asked me if I'd already had any investments, which I had, and then proceeded to tell me about investments within his company. The idea of it was to try and get an accumulation of money together so that my boy and my 2 granddaughters and his wife could get on the property ladder. It was very professionally put over to me, and they obviously seemed to know what they were talking about.
The obliging advisors were selling shares in a company dealing in high-tech airport security. Big business after September the 11th. The company were called Capital Asset Management.
There's a company out there called Centurion Biometrics. They're already pretty much set as far as a major player within the security industry throughout Asia and also throughout North America. I'm sure you can see why we ourselves have heavily invested into Centurion.
We spend an awful lot of money in research. If I told you how much gets spent on a yearly basis, you probably wouldn't believe me, but it's in the millions, put it that way.
We feel that as an investment, it's ideal, especially if you do come aboard at a ground floor level.
It's the sales patter so convincing that even experienced investors couldn't resist.
He gave me details of the websites and I looked at them and they seemed all okay. They had a London office for Centurion Biometric Systems. She said, oh, we do security. We're involved in the security, fire security at airports. The other check I did was I phoned up the Capital Asset Management, their office in Belgium, and I managed to speak to the broker. And every question I asked, they had a plausible answer.
The shares are known in the trade as initial public offerings, that's IPOs for short, and they're shares that have been sold before being brought to the market. But what the shareholders didn't know is that those shares were never going to see any market. There was going to be no return on their investment. In fact, they were never going to see that investment ever again.
In total, I've purchased £13,000 worth of shares in Centurion Biometrics.
In the end, we ended up with 10,000, and that's 10,000 worked out to be $20,000.
From just two people, Capital Asset Management have taken nearly 30 grand. They're just two of thousands of UK investors taken in by highly organised boiler room scammers, and all the more slippery because they operate from abroad.
If you're selling a financial product to people in the country where you are, you have to be regulated by that financial services authority in that country. If you're selling them to somebody abroad, you exploit a loophole.
What's happening to the money? You know, the people that we've heard from, the money that they've invested, which they've lost, where's it gone?
Much of it goes into organised crime, prostitution, drugs, and we have found in one case into the arms business.
What's the scale of this?
Huge. Just the UK, an average boiler room will make $1 million a week. At any one time there's about 20 running, and I'd estimate this in excess of $550 million a year lost to the UK alone.
So, who's behind Capital Asset Management? Does Centurion Biometrics exist? Are they one and the same? We asked an internet research expert to check out the reality behind their slick websites.
What is startlingly similar are their IP addresses. Now, an IP address is a unique reference given to any user of the internet, any internet service provider, and also any host companies. And the IP addresses were within 2 numbers of each other. This is a little bit of a coincidence when you consider that there are actually 4.3 billion IP addresses out there. When I looked at the HTML code, only a real techie ball would know this. The same coding handwriting appears, the layout's the same. It's virtually identical. Chances are that they are the same people behind these 2 sites.
And supposedly, those same people have a plush headquarters here in Piccadilly. It didn't turn out to be quite what we were expecting.
Hello.
I'm in the right place, Centurion.
Yes, how can I help?
We wondered if there's anybody here we could see.
There's not. There's no one in their office today.
Ah, how often is there someone in there?
Not that often. We've not seen anyone that recently.
How many people work here, do you know?
In their office, about a couple of people.
But they're not here today?
No.
And haven't been here for some time?
No.
I wonder if it could be that Capital Asset Management and Centurion Biometrics, big words, big ideas, but big con.
You feel physically sick. Then the hardest bit, I've got to tell my wife. Her first words were, what about the children?
My advice is to all the people, if anybody calls you cold on the phone, selling you a financial product or an investment, just put the phone down.
Good advice. Not surprisingly, there's no company statement on this because there's no company. We should point out there are 8 genuine companies with similar names to the ones in our film. You can easily check. The real ones are registered with Companies House here in the UK. But we did ask the Financial Services Authority, who police these matters, how you can spot a fake company from several thousand miles off.
It is very easy to give yourself a veneer of credibility over the telephone. It is very easy to set up a website which looks credible. That is no guarantee that this is not a fly-by-night operation. You need to check with the FSA, you need to look on our website to see whether someone is authorised in the UK. If you recognise that it's not a UK-based operation, if it's not authorised by the FSA, that means it's not protected by our consumer laws, it's not protected by our compensation scheme. If your money goes offshore, you are very unlikely to get it back.
Now, in the last few months, you've told us about star conventions where you've wasted a small fortune on not very much. So many that it's become conventional wisdom in the office to look very carefully before you throw money at famous gatherings where stars famously fail to show. But this time, the man behind the latest non-event has shown up here. He's got a lot to answer for shortly. This time, it was a Star Trek convention. The fans trekked, the stars didn't. Ashley Blake learns how the pull of another galaxy can be irresistible.
Captain's Log, Stardate January 2003.
The E1 Star Trek convention is announced, attended by a galaxy of stars and their legion of followers.
So it's about having a fun time, having parties, meeting other fans.
Meeting someone like William Shatner or Patrick Stewart would be like meeting David Beckham.
We're not nerds or crazy in some way. We're just fans, we enjoy escapism and we believe in some of the ideals of Star Trek.
Stephen Weil collects Star Trek autographs. He's got over 100 in his collection. His quest to boldly go where no fan had gone before led him to this sci-fi bar in London, where they hold Star Trek and fantasy events.
And it was here he encountered an impresario called Mani Patel. So out of this world, he's called Mani Incredible Patel.
He was promoting this special convention with a stellar cast beamed in from America.
I've only been to a few conventions in the past and started to collect the signatures of the main actors. So I had quite a few missing, and some of the actors that were due to appear at this one would have helped me complete the collection.
Stephen contacted Mani direct and paid £300 for 2 VIP tickets.
A few days later he phoned me and said, "Yeah, I've got your cheque, thanks very much, and I've got good news, you're in the first row." And I thought, wow, that's really something to look forward to.
When Ben Crook heard about the convention, he called for tickets at warp speed.
I was flicking through pages of my Star Trek monthly magazine, and there it was. And it looked really interesting and good. I phoned up the person organising it, and he said if you paid directly by cheque, he would basically book me a ticket in advance. So I did that, and he took the money out at the end of January straight away.
Brenda Clayton also went for the £150 VIP ticket.
I wanted to go to this convention to meet the cast of Enterprise, the new series. Also to get some autographed photographs, perhaps some memorabilia, meet other Star Trek fans, and generally have a weekend away, a break from reality.
She sent off the money and waited for the ticket to arrive. But meanwhile, the captain in charge of this enterprise was having a few problems.
It seemed Mani Patel had disappeared into a black hole.
I found it very difficult to get hold of him. Firstly, the mobile number that he used was no longer working. His email address had emails returned as being full up. And eventually, even his answer machine, I couldn't leave a message on it because that was full up.
I tried contacting his parents. I tried contacting the magazine it was advertised in. Basically disappeared off the face of the earth.
Then, from a computer far, far away, came this email.
The situation is this. The Coronet venue had been repossessed last week by the bankers, and so any chance of getting back the money that I had put into the venue has gone.
But the Coronet told us they thought the convention had been cancelled because Mani Patel had disappeared, leaving his deposit behind. They'd been trying to catch up with him for months. Brenda tried to hunt him down too.
They sent me an email saying they were dealing with this matter and I'd hear further later. Well, I haven't heard anything from them at all, and it's been months.
Brenda paid her 150 quid to a ticket agency, Titan Publishing. They've also been looking for Mani Patel. And so were others. We checked with Starfleet Command. That's the county courts to you and me. He had over £20,000 worth of judgments against him. But it looks like Mani and the money are lost in space.
If I was a Starfleet captain and Mani was the enemy, I'd send him off to a Borg to be assimilated. That'd be a fair punishment, I think.
I think I'd imprison Mani in a nice little rock somewhere.
Mani, why don't you regain a bit of integrity, do the right thing, and beam those refunds back to us?
And we are joined by Mani Incredible Patel Jr. Mani, where did it all go wrong?
It all went wrong during the start of the ticket sales last year. As the tickets went on sale, the Iraq War happened, and therefore actors didn't want to fly anywhere outside the US. That was the first thing. The second thing, people didn't want to spend any money, so that also took an effect. And the
hang on, you're blaming, we're blaming Saddam Hussein, we're blaming economic circumstances. This isn't Mani Incredible. This is this is Mani Unbelievable. Come on, Mani. This is other people's money.
Oh, I know it is. I totally respect that, and I also am out of debt as in debt as well over this whole thing.
Well, with every respect, people watching who spent their good money in good faith, hoping they could get to the convention, aren't going to be crying for you, are they?
No, they're going to be crying for themselves, and I'm genuinely sorry. And the whole event was done in good faith, and it's a shame because after so many years for events that I've put together or been involved with that have gone so well, that this has now happened.
Then you should have known. You do not do this. You make sure that the event is going to happen before you take money off people. It's tantamount to, I don't know, Manchester United or Arsenal selling season tickets for home games that may one day happen.
But with a Star Trek event, what you have to do, you have to get your ticket sales in first, and that's how it happens. You have to get your actors in, you get your tickets sold, and that's when the event happens. But when you've got no actors turning up to an event that you've scheduled, then there's no way out of it. And it's deeply frustrating for me because I'd booked all these actors to turn up.
So you're in it up to here. Yep. Why don't you enable people to contact you so you can explain the situation to them?
The situation got so unbearable, so frustrating that I really couldn't do anything about it. And I've had so much money, my own personal money, put into this event. And now this is...
You could have responded to emails, you could have responded to telephone calls, you could have set people's minds at ease.
I did send out some emails, I did make telephone calls.
It's not the story we're getting.
No, but the short of it is, okay, I'm to blame because I didn't communicate with people, and I totally am deeply sorry about it. But unfortunately, from my point of view, it was very frustrating that I couldn't do anything about it.
Mani, how are these people going to get their money back? Well, because you've got High Court judgments hanging over you. You're riddled with debt at the moment. Are you going to be able to pay these people back?
These people are getting paid back as and when funds that I've put in personally come back in as well. And some people have had refunds back already. So we're not talking about everyone who bought a ticket who has not been refunded. So things are being, day by day, people are being resolved. And this whole situation will resolve very shortly.
Well, if you crack it, it will be incredible.
Well,
Mani,
I hope so.
Thanks for coming in and putting your side.
Thank you very much.
Okay.
If you have a story you think we should know about, this is how you do it. Email us by going to our website at www.bbc.co.uk/watchdog. Call us on 0870 010 7070 or write to us at Watchdog, BBC TV, London W12 7TS.
Yeah, and keep your stories coming in. Next week, the tumble dryer that brought down a house.
EastEnders brings the house down next. We'll see you next Tuesday. Till then, bye-bye.
Good night.